kind of what happened next with this is probably one of my most treasured memories of covering Tranmere, because they've got the work cut out. It's 10v11, and around about the hour mark, maybe 70-minute mark, Tranmere fans are singing Super White Army, Super White Army, Super White Army. It's building. It's building. I can feel like a good dance track, you know what I mean, with a good build before you get to the drop. And the atmosphere that was being generated out of Tranmere's end of Wembley was deafening. Bear in mind, this is a huge ground which was nowhere near full because of the level of fixture that's being played in it. But the Tranmere fans are chanting Super White Army, and it's built. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up, and I can remember looking around the press box, and Tranmere's press officer's got a smile on his face he can't keep off, and there's a real defiance, a unity, a defiance. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the proudest I've ever been to have been from the Wirral. This is unity is strength. You know what I mean? This is what I'm seeing now. Everyone's digging in the face of adversity to try and get this over the line. And from that point on, I just thought to myself, I think Tranmere are going to win this regardless. And as it turned out, within the last 10 minutes, Rovers hero Connor Jennings gets down that wing, puts a cross in. Norris gets on the end of it, and I don't know how the keeper never kept it out, but he didn't. And Norwood scored the goal that took Tranmere back to where they belong. Cue scenes of Bedlam, and I remember some quite big scenes of Bedlam in the press box, Matt. So I'm sure you do yourself. I remember a reporter from a paper that I despise going, whoa, as if to say, what's going on here? And I thought to myself, fuck off, mate. This was our moments. This was our moments. When that final whistle went, there was a few people around with tears in their eyes. I can't remember if you were one of them, Matt, so I'll let you decide what's true and what's fact and what's fable there. But it was a magical moment, and there's more to come on this. But in terms of the game, I was just very, very proud to have been there and to witness what felt like such a significant moment in Tranmere's history.
I think you've summed it up really well. There weren't tears that year from me, but I just remember not being able to stop smiling and not wanting to, and like never having felt anything like that moment and the 7 or 8 minutes that followed in any other situation in my life. I mean, I've seen Tranmere win big games, but none of them mattered as much as that. None of them carried the weight of importance and what it meant for people's jobs, for the club. The future of the club really was at stake, and it was unbelievable. It really was. And my kind of celebration, as I've said on here before, was firstly I was doing updates for Radio City that day, and the ISDN box that I was broadcasting through had just decided to pack it in about 3 minutes before Norwood scored, so I had to do the goal update over the phone. But the goal update would have had to have come about 2 or 3 minutes later, because I'd have still been coming down from cloud 9 with the celebrations of it all. It was just an incredible occasion. It really was. And that day, you're right, that the Wirral was all unified that day. But then you came back and it felt like, as someone who's followed Tranmere since I was 5 years old, they'd only been on a downward trajectory, and the Wirral had forgotten their football team, and not so much they'd forgotten, but a lot of people were ashamed of them for what had happened. But the next day you could drive around the Wirral and people were out in shirts again, and the sun was shining, and it just felt like that was the day that the Wirral woke up to Tranmere and became proud of them again.
Absolutely, and the pride's the thing, because that was something to be proud of. You know what I mean? That was something to be proud of, and I was able to share in that, and because that's what football's all about, isn't it? It's all about enjoyment, forgetting about problems out, whatever else you've got going on in your lives, and throwing yourself all in to what's happening on that football pitch, and the pride that you should feel on success for your local area, and that it had all those ingredients. And I loved every second of it. And as you've kind of touched on, which I can move on to now, was, the game was one thing, exhausting. I think we'd both done bits for the Echoes supplement, and then they had like a spread the following day, and um, I can't remember if that was it might have been the year before that. I don't know. Actually, I could be wrong there, but I remember having to do certain I had bits and pieces to do after the game, and I felt like I wanted to get them done as fast as I could because I wanted to get back on the train, back up to the Wirral, because I knew that they were going to go back to Prenton Park with the cup, and there would be a lot of people there. So I did everything that I needed to do, and then raced it back to Birkenhead as fast as possible. And I can remember getting up the ground. It was like, obviously it was dark because it was at night, but it felt dusky, even though maybe because it was May, and you got lighter nights then, but it didn't feel totally dark when I got back. And I can remember seeing you outside, and Adam Siddle and Phil Wilkinson, and lots of people mulling about, and they weren't letting any more into Aldo's, which was where the players were and that. But the guy who was doing the door on Aldo's was the same guy who was always stood at the entrance to the steps up into the main stand to the press box, and he recognised me and he just let me in. So that was handy. And in there, it was scenes of delirium. Andy Mangan leading the charge, and getting the singing going, and just there's a few. I think there was a few speeches on the stage, and then that went on for a bit, and then after that, it was all the players went to into Birkenhead. They all went to the beach. So I thought, well, sod this, I'm coming as well. So off we went, and I'll tell the story right. I can't. I'll full disclosure. I cannot remember if this happened that after that game or the subsequent promotion the year after, but I can remember wandering out, and I was like, right, how am I going to get up to the beach now? Because it's a bit of a walk. It's not really ideal to walk from Prenton Park into the middle of Birkenhead at that time of night. How am I going to get there? And I bumped into Mike Jackson walking out, and Mike Jackson looks a bit worse for wear. And I was like, all right, Mike. And he's like, he goes, oh, we're getting the beach. I was like, right, well, no, I'm getting there now. So I was like, well, we'll get a taxi, Mike. He's like, all right, yeah, okay. So we get a taxi up down to Birkenhead, outside the beach, cool rooms, whatever. And we get to the front, and then we're about to go in, and Mike Jackson's got a rucksack on his back, with a laptop. And he's like, he goes, I can't take this in a nightclub, can I? I was like, well, I don't know, Mike. He's like, no. He goes, I tell you what, we'll hide it. So we end up crossing the road, that sort of embankment on, it's not Argyle Street, is it? It's one around the corner. We've crossed over from the cool rooms sort of towards the bus stop, and there's sort of like a garden area, like a plantation area, a few shrubs and bushes and stuff. And he just gets his rucksack and just lobs it in the middle of the bushes. He hasn't got a clue where he's put it. He just lobbed it, and he says to me, "Don't let me forget that later." So we go into the cool rooms, and the security guards are just they know he is straight away. Just let us in. I'm like, yeah, I'm with Mike. In we go. You know what I mean? We're only in there about 2 minutes. And he turns around to me and he goes, "Do you know what? Thinking about it, I think I better go and get that back." I was like, well, yeah, Mike, I'm not quite sure why he chucked it, to be honest. But he's like, he goes, I know, yeah. He goes, it's got a club laptop on it with about 6 years worth of player data on it. I was like, bloody hell. So we both end up going out, and me and Mike Jackson are on our knees walking around a hedge trying to find his laptop, which thankfully he eventually found. So he didn't give all of his clues away to the Queens and the dock. And so yeah, he eventually finds it, and we take it back in, and yeah, he just disappeared into the club. Then I don't think I ever saw him again. But like all the players are in there in the tracksuits, and you know a lot of the supporters who've managed to get in as well. And it was just one big party. I can remember, and I was made to feel part of that. You know, I wasn't, you know, just as a reporter, not a hardcore Tranmere fan. I wasn't excluded from that by the players or the supporters. They were, you know, I had a good chat with them. I ended up being tossed in the air by a couple of them. Not that I'd done anything that day, but you know what I mean. It was a bit mad, and then going downstairs and. You know the players had clearly enjoyed themselves on the coach because there was a few mad things going on, and James Norwood's gargling his ale. Lionel Cole's just walking round a bit mad, barging into people. I found him in the toilets, just walking up to people, going, "Super White Army, Super White Army," just like literally right in their face. And then I find out the next day that there's a picture emerges on social media where he's basically just woken up at some random fella's house because he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's just ended up there trying to get his head down. So yeah, I think there was a few brain cells lost that night, but you know, from start to finish, a very long day, but very very memorable with some interesting incidents along the way.